Hello everyone and good morning to today's webinar of Theobald Software and Docs42. The topic for today is use the power of SAP and document generation in your cloud workflows. My name is Lisa Pulsinger. I'm Business Technology Evangelist at Docs42 and I'm happy to be here today to present you this interesting and new topic about SAP and document generation in workflows, together with Christian Tauchmann from Theobald Software. Hello, Christian.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Lisa. Hello to Vienna. Greetings from Stuttgart. My name is Christian from Theobald Software. I'm software consultant working for almost 5 years now. Theobald Software, and I'm responsible for the topic of SAP process integration with SharePoint and Office 365, also working in technical support. Yeah, and I'm happy to have you here in our call today. And yeah, let's get started, I would say.
Great, thank you, Christian. So what's the agenda for today? What can you expect for the next more or less 45 minutes? At first, Christian will introduce you to Theobald Software, and then I will introduce you to Docs42. So for those of you who don't know us yet, you will learn a lot of insight about our two companies and our tools we offer. And for those who already know us, you will get some further insights in what we do. Then the main part will be the live demo of an SAP sales order. We will show you a lot of different systems today and show you how our tools can integrate with all of that. So you will see SAP, Nintex Workflow Cloud, Theobald Software, Docs42, as well as SharePoint Online. And in the end, we have a question and answer section as well. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat panel of this webinar, and we will answer them for you afterwards. Great, so much for the agenda part, for the organizational things. And now I hand over to Christian to tell us some more about Theobald Software.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for the introduction. We don't want to bore you with a lot of theory, just a little information before we go to the live demo. A few key figures about our software, about our company. I have seen the attendee list. Probably most of you already know our company, so I will keep this short. As you can see, Theobald Software was founded in 2004, and yeah, since then we have gained market leadership in the area of SAP interface technology, and have almost 3,000 customers worldwide, which is, I would say, quite remarkable, considering that we have started with exactly one customer in 2004 and one employee, which was Patrick Theobald, our founder. So it was a long way to get where we are now. We do our money, our revenue with selling our software licenses. Almost all our money is coming from this business. We don't do any consulting. Therefore, we have a broad network of partners who help us with implementation projects, for example. Yeah, on the right-hand side, you see our offices where we are located. The headquarters is here in Stuttgart, where I'm broadcasting from. We have an office in Seattle in the US. We have a subsidiary in France and also in Hong Kong. In the lower section, which might be interesting for you, are a couple of references, companies that use our software. This is only a selection of companies that use our software for the topic of process integration with SharePoint and Office 365. That's the topic we are talking about today in this session. As you can see, there are quite big and well-known companies such as Twinings, a big tea manufacturer from the UK, ThyssenKrupp or Rolls-Royce, and also smaller and medium-sized engineering companies such as Wittgenstein or Witzenmann. If you are interested, we have a couple of success stories on our website describing different use cases. so to say, what the customers do with our software. All right, yeah, you can go to the next slide, please. For a better understanding how to position the connector we present today in our Theobald software product portfolio, you see here in the upper right corner, there's ERP Connect services for SAP integration with SharePoint on-premises and also Nintex Workflow for SharePoint on-prem. And you have ECS Core, which is our cloud connector for connectivity with Office 365. The Microsoft Power Platform means Microsoft Flow, Power Apps, and other cloud applications. The scenario we show today is with Nintex, which is also available in the cloud with two products, Nintex Workflow Cloud and Nintex for Office 365. Both is supported with our cloud connector. And yeah, that's where we show the live demo. On the left-hand side, these are all products showing connectors for integration with reporting, analytics, BI, and data warehousing platforms or environments. The difference to process integration is that there we do mass data extraction. We extract millions of data from an SAP table, for example, or other SAP objects, ABAP reports, a Delta Q that would be from a BW system. And then we can push this data to different environments, such as SQL Server database, Oracle, or BI front-end tools such as Tableau and Power BI, for example. A process integration is more, we're talking about today, is more you have a process in SAP, for example, leave request or a sales order creation or purchase requisition, and you want to handle this process outside of SAP in an environment that is maybe more familiar for the employees. SharePoint is the perfect example. It's a platform which is perfect for collaboration and for having it as an employee portal. And the idea is to do these processes outside of SAP to give other users who are not familiar with the SAP user interface access to these processes. To give you the full picture, in the lower right corner, you see ERP Connect, which was the connector our company started with, and actually it runs under the hood, still runs under the hood with all our other connectors. Okay, so much to the product portfolio. Could you please go to the next slide, Lisa?
Mm-hmm.
The next slide is explaining a little bit in more detail the software architecture of our product ECS Core, of our cloud connector I mentioned before. What do we have here? We have our SAP ERP or BW system, which is installed on premises. And in the middle, you see our cloud connector ECS Core, which is also installed on a local Windows Server environment, or it can also run in a virtual machine, for example. ECS Core comes with a tool called the Web Service Designer. And the Web Service Designer is the core instrument of ECS Core to get in access to read and write access to the SAP system. It is possible with the Web Service Designer to create SAP integrated REST web services, and you can access different SAP objects such as tables or function modules and BAPIs. The newest feature, it's not displayed here, but it's already implemented in the tool. You can also do transaction recording in the newest version of ECS Core, which could also be interesting for some clients, because sometimes it could be complicated to configure a BAPI, or sometimes no standard function is available in the SAP system. So that's a good alternative to just record the transaction in SAP or the process, and expose it as a web service. And here in the upper section, you see the cloud environment. This is not a limited selection. It can be Office 365, it can be Nintex Workflow, the Power Platform, Microsoft Flow and Power Apps, but in principle, all applications that are able to consume REST API, to consume REST services, can communicate with our connector ECS core. And here, to finish this, this little log symbols is supposed to symbolize that we can establish a secure connection from the cloud to our ECS core connector and to SAP. Secure connection means you can use, for example, an Azure Relay instance and register it in the ECS core administration dashboard, and then you have an HTTPS endpoint as a secure tunnel from the cloud environment to the on-premises environment, which is, of course, important to have this security features. All right. Yeah, that's more or less it. Then I would hand over to Lisa to give you the overview of Docs 42.
Great, thank you very much. So I'll continue with Docs 42 with our part, give you a small introduction to who we are and what we do. So Docs 42 is a tool, a software for document generation. You can automatically generate documents with data from different systems. For example, data from SAP, which is the topic of today, but also you can store data on SharePoint. We will see that in the demo later as well. You could have data in SQL databases or in any other system, and you can combine those. Our focus lies on intuitive design for complex documents. So our template design is done in Microsoft Office, and you can have templates in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. Output is very flexible as well. We will see a few options of those today, and they're ranging from PDF until printing, email, and so on. We have around 310 customers at the moment and are working with 80 partners. Just like Theobald Software, we don't do any consulting business ourselves. This is done with a huge partner network that do the implementation projects. Our headquarters are in Vienna, Austria. Down below, you see a few logos. These are a few of our reference customers. So our reference customers range from small companies to big enterprises, globally operating enterprises, and they are across industries. So we have, for example, Deutsche Bahn is a big reference story of us, or ABB, we have BBT, then we have the city of Graz and public sector, a lot of different sectors and companies. And this shows that document generation automation is a topic across industries and across companies of any size. Good. Then I mentioned before that for our document generation, you first of all have to design in Microsoft Office, so Word, Excel, and PowerPoint to design the templates, and then you can integrate the data for your documents from various sources without needing to program. So SAP, for example, you can integrate that with our SAP connector, and under the hood there's also the ERP connect of Theobald. So Docs 42 and Theobald are partners for many years already for SAP document generation and data integration. Then you can integrate data from SharePoint, XML, JSON, web services, databases, or if you use any other systems that are not mentioned on here, we also have a custom data source where you can easily configure your own data input, data integration. And most importantly, you can combine all of those data sources. So in one document, you could have several data sources from several systems as well. Then once you've set up your template and document and your data integration, it comes to the output. So there are various options here as well. The classic one would be PDF or PDFA, but of course the standard Office formats also work. So if you want to generate your document and maybe adjust it and customize it a little bit afterwards, still you have like Word, Excel, and PowerPoint format. You can also generate documents, store it automatically to SharePoint. We also have a cool Teams integration. You could generate emails, you can send them straight away, or you could also generate draft emails. Of course, sign your documents, print them, store it in a database, or also here, what we have for the input, a custom connector, we also have a custom connector for the output. So for example, if you want to store your documents automatically in your archiving system or somewhere else, then you can simply add a custom output action. So and all of that's possible with our Docs42 server, and we have a Docs42 server on-premise, but we also have our software as a service, Docs42 Online, that has the same functionalities as our on-premise server, just that it's hosted for you. So we're partnering there with Axions, and we are hosting Docs42 to you. In the cloud, you have 100,000 documents per month included, so you can generate a huge number of documents. And the security is done with Azure Active Directory impersonation. So no data is visible on the server. You always see who generated the documents, and you take the Azure AD tokens with you. Today we're showing a hybrid scenario, but of course all scenarios, as I mentioned, the functionalities are the same, are possible with Docs42 on-premise as well as Docs42 online. Great, and so much about the theory. Now I will introduce you to the topic and to the story of our live demo we're gonna show you in a second. So we have as an example here today as a story, we have a live demo for an SAP sales order. We have two parties involved. First of all, there's the company that's selling. There's the employee, Selina. She's the sales employee. She's responsible for customer communication, to set up quotes, to set up orders, and all the processes necessary in the sales. And then there's Michaela. She's from the customer, and she was in constant contact with Selina about the project. And after a lot of calls, finally, Michaela decided to purchase. So this is just to symbolize that they're in contact. And then, so when Michaela places the order, it's time for Selina to work on the processes involved. So what needs to be done? Of course, she needs to capture the sales order information in the system, and she also needs, of course, to set up a sales order document and to send it via email to Selina. So a lot of process steps are needed to have the order, the purchase completed. How does it work for Selina? So they are working, so Selina's company is working with SAP. Unfortunately, Selina is not really too familiar with the SAP GUI. There's a lot of stress towards the end of the year, a lot of deals needs to be closed, and it's very time consuming and a bit complicated to capture all that information of sales orders in her SAP system in a manual way. Thankfully, she uses a few other technologies that help her streamline her processes. So she's using Nintex, the Nintex Workflow Cloud, for doing workflow automation, for helping her automate some processes. Then she's also using SharePoint for some other data that cannot be stored, but it's project relevant, but cannot really be captured in SAP. For example, some pictures or some other documents that are very important for the project. And then finally, she's using Theobald software and Docs42. Theobald helps her to capture the data in SAP, to write the data to SAP, and Docs42 to generate the document and send it to her afterwards with all the data from the systems. So much about the scenario. Imagine this scenario when we're going to talk to you about it. But now let's jump into practice. And Christian, I will give you the rights now.
Yeah.
I will let you start with the live demo.
All right. Let me show my screen. You should see it by now. Do you see it?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Lisa, for explaining the demo scenario we're gonna demonstrate now. We thought how to start with the live demo. You can see here the good old SAP user interface, the SAP GUI. We just want to demonstrate how annoying it can be to handle this process inside of SAP directly. That means to create an SAP order through a transactional process in an SAP ERP system. Let me show you this. You have to enter in the SAP system a transaction code, and then you have to fill in some technical information such as order type and some organizational information, which is necessary to come to the main window to create such a sales order. Now I click on sales, and you can see a big selection or entry screen going through different windows and tabs. I have to enter information such as a sold to party, a ship to party, a reference to a PO number, a delivery date. I have to enter material, item information. In the end, I would have to click on save, and the document or the sales order will be created in SAP. There is no chance to change this process in any way or to do an approval process around it, that a manager first has to approve it before it is posted to the database. And yeah, here we come to the point to say, okay, why don't take this process outside of SAP and handle it from an environment which is perfect for process automation, that would be Nintex, in this case Nintex Workflow Cloud. And why don't use a tool such as Docs42 to create nice order confirmation documents at the end and send email notifications to the workflow creator. So that was the idea behind it. And I don't want to go here through the complete process. Should just be a demonstration how complicated it looks in SAP. So now switch to the process how we have designed it in the cloud. Let's go to the web form. So the workflow starting point or our workflow trigger, a process trigger, would be this Nintex form, which was designed in the Nintex Workflow Cloud Designer. I can show you later on in more detail what possibilities you have. First, I want to go through the process, and then we explain what is happening in the background. So for creating a sales order, you can see you have not so many fields as you have in SAP, which makes it easier for the end user to handle this process. It doesn't require any training in this case, so he has to enter an employee. Example, we take Selina Bentley here, and here ads stands for advertisement. You can choose here from different advertisement. This is possible for the document generation later on, because you get these advertisements in the email signature, in the notification email. Then you see here are already some default values entered in these fields. I have a sold to party and a ship to party, some organizational information. I have a material number, and I need to enter a quantity. And as soon as I click on submit, the workflow will be triggered in the background and will post this sales order to the SAP system. So in a real life scenario, maybe an approval step would be in between, but for the demo, we skip this step to make it a little bit more faster. Okay, I click on submit, and now this will trigger the Nintex workflow in the background. Let's switch to my Nintex Workflow Cloud dashboard or tenant. Let's see where we are here. In the Nintex Workflow Cloud dashboard, you have a section called instances. There you can see where the workflow is right now, in which step. Yeah, this is a live view on where the if the workflow is running, if it's failing, if it's completed. Let's click on the workflow to get more details. And as you can see, a sales order number was already created here. We write this information back from the SAP system and can capture it here. And you can see we have now a document number. I copy it, 16044. And before I go to the other steps, the email notifications, I will show you right now that this order number was actually created in SAP. Let's go back to the SAP GUI. In this case, for displaying a sales order, I would have to enter a different transaction code. I just copy paste the order number here and click on the overview screen. And as you can see here, that worked. The standard order was created in SAP with for the respective sold to and shipped to party, with the material we entered and the order quantity we entered, and it can be further processed here now by the SAP experts. But for the workflow creator or the end user who used the app or the web form, it's completed here, and it was actually pretty easy to for him or her to create the sales order. Yeah, what else? The next step, let me click on refresh again, and we can see here now the other steps are already are also completed now. These would be the steps coming from the Docs42 custom connector. An email was sent with a document attachment, and a document was also posted to my to a OneDrive storage. That's just for historization, that I have it in some storage. Let me first show you the email that was created. Let's see, I don't think I have to do a site refresh. Here it is. And as you can see here on the right-hand side, you have the sales order with this exact sales order number, 16044. You have this nice email signature and email text, which was can be configured in the Docs42 component. And let's double click in the sales order PDF. Looks like that. Also, pretty nice. Lisa can later on explain in more detail how it is composed. This email template, where is it stored? How does it work? First of all, I would like to show you the part of SAP integration, how that worked in the background. So I would like to open the workflow that was running in the background. I guess I have already opened the window. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not sure how familiar you are with Nintex Workflow in the cloud. I guess most of you know Nintex as a workflow solution. Nintex Workflow Cloud the designer looks similar than the designer in Nintex Workflow for SharePoint on-premise. You have your actions on the left-hand side. You can drag and drop to the canvas and configure. When I click into such an action, I get a detail screen here. For example, our start event is the web form, which can be designed here. When I click on design form, you see how it is composed. So I can drag and drop different fields, which I use as as my entry fields for this workflow or process. I can enter the company icon, do some corporate design here. I could also go through different screens here if it's a more complex a process. As you can see, you are completely free in designing your entry screen here and your process, which is not definitely not possible in the SAP system. The next step, I said it's an easy workflow. There's no approval process in between, so it goes directly to our custom connector, or extension is it called here in the Nintex Workflow Cloud. This one you can see I have named it as create sales order for one material item. When I click into it, you see on the right-hand side, I have to choose an SAP connection. I have to do some field mapping. So these information here, sold to party, shipped to party, and so on, are fields coming from the web form entry information and have to be mapped here to the different fields of our custom connector. So, but how was the custom connector created? I mentioned before in the introduction when I showed you the architecture screen that there is a tool called the Web Service Designer, which is provided with the ECS Core software. And in this Web Service Designer, you create a REST web service, SAP integrated web service for the sales order creation. And yeah, let me show you the web service. I opened it before. That's the Web Service Designer tool. And as you can see here, I have a web service name, sub-sales order, web service for NWC, and I have different SAP operations. And when I go back here on the NWC screen, when I scroll down and go to the sub-sales order service, you find here these operations as also as different actions here in the custom connector. So how was the web service created? Let me double click in the action we saw here, and which was running in the background for the sales order creation. It also looks kind of as a workflow tool. You can choose from different activities at the right side and drag and drop them to the designer canvas. In this case, we used an activity called execute function. And in this activity, we call up a so-called SAP function module or BAPI, which allows us to write this information to the SAP system. After that, we do a separate transaction commit that is sometimes needed in SAP to write the information to the database. And the input parameters here, the input information we see here, sold to party, shipped to party, and so on, we also have defined in the web service. And you find it here in the parameters, and these have to be mapped here in the execute function activity. It would also possible to call up a table, or the new feature is the transaction recording. When I drag and drop the transaction recorder, I could directly enter the transaction code, for example, this VA01 we saw before, and do the process in SAP and get a web service from it. This is also possible. And how to get it into NWC. You see here, you have as an option the export to Open API, formerly known as Swagger. This is just a web service definition, so to say. And if I export it into Open API, I will get a JSON file which can be imported afterwards in the Nintex Workflow Cloud tenant. So here in the Nintex Workflow Cloud tenant, we have a section extensions, and here you can upload this file and come to your custom connector. As you can see here, the Docs42 connector was also created as an extension in this custom connector screen here, or in the extension screen. And when I scroll down, you see we have a couple of custom connectors already created for different use cases. All right, that's more or less it for the SAP integration part. Just one thing I forgot to show you here. Also, the sales order was stored here in OneDrive, and for further historization for the sales orders, I also have a Flow, Microsoft Flow running in the background, writing these sales orders from OneDrive into a SharePoint online custom list. So you also find here, when I do a site refresh, you see here, you also have the sales order here, and you could make it a bit prettier here, have the customer name and so on. So, all right. So Lisa, I guess I'm finished with the SAP integration part. I would give over to you then.
Thank you.
I think you have to require the control.
Ask for the mouse.
Okay, give control.
Yeah,
good. Now you should have control. Perfect.
I think I have it. Great. So thank you for introducing us to the SAP part. I'm now introducing you to the Docs42 part that has happened. So we saw that after the workflow was triggered, after the information was stored to SAP, a Docs42 document was sent with Docs42, and also a Docs42 document was generated and stored in this case OneDrive, and then via flow into SharePoint. But of course, it would also be possible to store the documents automatically using Docs42 to SharePoint and also with metadata. Let me show you, we also have an extension here for Docs42. We have one for Docs42 Online and for the local server. This is to show you that it's both possible with a full cloud scenario and also with a hybrid scenario. Also, at this point, I want to give a big thank you to Henning Ivan, the CEO of BusyTech, who created the extensions for Docs42 for Nintex Workflow Cloud in the first place. So here we have 3 different extensions. One is a simple document generation extension. So if you just want to return a document and then, for example, upload it to OneDrive, that's possible with Get a Document, then you can automatically send it via email. And then there's the other action of storing that document to SharePoint Online. And you could simply drag and drop those extensions into your workflow. Exactly. Let's have a look at the sent document from Docs42 Online, how that setup looks like. So our setup, we can see some operations, and if you've worked with Docs42 before, if you've done some work with the Docs42 server, you will be familiar with all those operations. So the first one is, the first thing you have to note down is if you want to generate a document, a spreadsheet, or a slide. So all 3 are possible. We want to generate a document. Then you give the path to the document template. In this case, we have it on a Docs42 server, but of course, you could also store it in in SharePoint Online in SharePoint Online, and I will show you that later as well on how you can work with templates directly from SharePoint Online. Then here we decided that the document should be sent as an attachment. Then we have some variables for the document naming, which I will show you again in a few seconds as well. So of course you can give the parameters which you decide for within the workflow. You can add them to the Docs42 call. Here we have our email addresses. In this case, we just put it in hard copied for Michaela, but of course you can make the dynamic as well and call the information from the workflow, for example. The subject can be added, as well as the email body. So the email, so actually the email which we saw that was sent automatically also was a Docs42 Word template, the email body. So you can be as flexible as you want with your corporate design, with any information you want to include in your emails, because you're using a Word template that's sent out as an email afterwards. So that's all what you configure in here. The one for Get a Document from Docs42 Online is a little bit easier because it's just returning a document. Here we could choose the format, the naming, and in this case the result, it's stored online. So much of how the setup looks like in the workflow. And then now I will just quickly show you as well the setup for, so now you can see my screen again. And I will just quickly go back to the email which was sent directly with Docs42. So we can see here the email body. This was a Word document, which I'll show you in a second. And then in the attachment, so we had the parameter in the workflow, and it was added here dynamically with that number of the recordings of the sales order. Great. This is the result for the end user. And now let's have a look on how a template looks like and how a Docs42 template looks like. I will do that quickly, and I will go to my SharePoint. Here I have my SharePoint for sales orders. And first of all, the first thing I want to show you is our ads. So if I go back to my emails, we see that we have an app, like this is, for example, in a scenario where you would like to add some further incentive for the customer, where you have like a bonus system or something. So something how you can customize your documents even further. So we have an ad here and also an ad down here in this document. And this was added from SharePoint. So actually we integrated data that was added within the workflow from SAP and also data from SharePoint. So you can see here add bonus card. If I open it here in Word, we can see that this ad was taken and integrated directly from SharePoint into our templates. We have a few different ones here as well, but what I would prefer to show you is our templates. So we have the templates here on our SharePoint Online, on Docs42 templates, and I here have a folder for SAP sales order, and here I have all the information stored, my order template in English. I'm quickly going to open it. So here it opens in Microsoft Word Online. Here you could adjust some layouting if you want to, and if you want to adjust the data that's inserted, and if you want to work with the Docs42 comments, you will need to open it in the desktop app. And now we can see our template. I'll just quickly log in. And this is the template for the sales order, which we've seen. Just instead of all the data filled in and all the information, we have a lot of blue fields. These are the Docs42 data fields. If I double click on one, we can see on the right hand side where the data comes from. So in this case, it comes from an SAP data source customer, and the field is name 1. The other one is called ORT01, also coming from customer. If I go down here, we can see this comes from a SharePoint data source employee. It's a name, it's the name. So it was Selina Bentley, which we're going to see in a second. It was inserted as type image. Here we have a table that's expanding automatically. So if I go here on my Docs42 ribbon and here with my comments, I can see ultimate range. And here it said it should be repeated for the data source position. So in case we had 3 products, for example, our table, when we generate a document, will also have 3 lines. Let me just quickly generate the document locally as well, so you can see that so that you can generate documents from the template as well. Here I would choose which order to generate it from. I say this one, and then I can also choose my employee. So I can choose the ad I want to add. Maybe this time I'm gonna add a Sue ad from the Sue, and then I will also add which employee generated the document. If my Wi-Fi still permits me, yes, let's stick with Selina Bentley. And now I'm generating a document locally. So you can see that this is possible as well. And every time you set up your documents and templates, here we can see the different thing was added. Here was also only just one product behind, and Selina's picture and signature were added as well. Great. That was it for my live demo. So for you to see and how the Docs42 setup works. Now, being a little bit conscious about time, we're already at 45. It's time to switch to our question and answer session. So if you have questions, please feel free to post them now in the chat panel, and we will just go through, we will just choose maximum of 2 questions because of timing reasons. So please go ahead. And in the meanwhile, one question already came in. So let me read it out. This one was, where are the online servers of both Nintex and Docs42? Very good question. So Docs42, they're hosting together with Axions, and their servers are all in Europe, within the European Union, and also the Nintex Workflow Cloud servers, they are now available in Europe as well. This is as of, I think, 1 or 2 months ago. Before then it was just in the USA, but now it's also in the European Union. So available for European customers as well, of course. And then another question came in. So Christian, maybe for you as well. So someone is asking, does the cloud integration only work with Nintex Workflow Cloud or also with other solutions?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, of course, it works with other solutions. Nintex Workflow Cloud was just an example of how SAP integration can work with a cloud application, in this case Nintex, but it would also work with of course, with the Microsoft Power Platform, Power Apps, and Microsoft Flow. And as I mentioned before in the when I explained the architectural screen, that it is also possible to, in principle, to consume these REST API, these REST services, and access the SAP system with any application that is able to call these REST services. So you are quite flexible here.
Thank you. Same counts as well for Docs42. So you can call it with any workflow service you're working with, and also independent from workflows. Great. And I think that's it for today. One more final announcement. So next week, there's the European SharePoint conference in Prague, and both our companies will be there. Theobald at booth number 25 and Docs42 at booth number 13. And we would be happy to meet you there in Prague.
Yeah.
Just if you have more questions about this area, just come up at our booth anytime. Exactly.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Yes, thank you very much. If you need further information, just contact us or meet us at ESPC. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.